Adi. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Canto 4, Chapter 9, Text 26. Maitreya Uvacha Ityachita sa Bhagavan Ati dishyatmana padam Balasya Pashyato Dhama Swam Agad Garudadvajaha. Maitreya Uvacha Ityarchita sa Bhagavan Ati dishyatmana padam Balasya Pashyato Dhama Swam Agad Garudadvajaha. Maitreya Uvacha Ityarchita sa Bhagavan Ati dishyatmana padam Balasya Pashyato Dhama Swam Agad Garudadvajaha. Maitreya Uvacha Ityarchita sa Bhagavan Adidishyatmana padam Balasya pashyato dhama Swam agad garuda dvajaha Maitreya uvacha Ityarchita sa Bhagavan Balasya pashyato dhama Swam agad garuda dvajaha. Mataji's? Maitreya uvacha Ityarchita sa Bhagavan Balasya pashyato dhama Swam agad garuda dvajaha Maitreya uvacha Ityarchita sa Bhagavan Atidishyatmana padam Balasya pashyato dhamma Swam agat garuda dvajaha. Word for word. Maitreya uvacha. The great sage Maitreya continued to speak. Iti, thus. Architaha, being honored and worshipped. Saha, the Supreme Lord. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Atidishya, after offering. Atmanaha, his personal. Padam, residence. Balasya, while the boy. Pashyataha, was looking on. Dhamma, to his abode. Swam, own. Aghat, he returned. Garudadvajaha, Lord Vishnu, whose flag bears the whose flag bears the emblem of Garuda. Translation. The great sage Maitreya continued. After being worshipped and honored by the boy Dhruva Maharaj, and after offering him his abode, Lord Vishnu, on the back of Garuda, returned to his abode as Dhruva Maharaj looked on. Purport. From this verse, it appears that Lord Vishnu awarded Dhruva Maharaj the same abode in which he resides. His abode is described in the Bhagavad Gita 15th chapter, 6th verse. Yad gatva na nivartante tadhama paramamama. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So very short purport today. But because Prabhupada mentions that verse in Bhagavad Gita, I thought it would be befitting to also read the description. So Bhagavad Gita 15.6 Natad bashyate suryo nashashanko napavakaha yadgatva na nivartante taddama paramam mama. The supreme abode of mind is not illuminated by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. Purport. The supreme world, the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, which is known as Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan, is described here. In the spiritual sky, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, fire, electricity, because all the planets are self-luminous. We have only one planet in this universe, the sun, which is self-luminous. But all the planets in the spiritual sky are self-luminous. The shining effulgence of all those planets called Vaikunthas constitutes the shining sky known as the Brahmajyotir. Actually, the effulgence is emanating from the planet of Krishna, Goloka Vrindavan. But of that shining effulgence is covered by the Mahatattva, the material world. Other than this, the major portion of the shining sky is full of spiritual planets, which is called Vaikunthas, chief of which is Goloka Vrindavan. As soon as a living entity is in this dark material world, he is in conditioned life. But as soon as he reaches the spiritual sky by cutting through the false perverted tree of material world, he becomes liberated. Then there is no chance of his coming back here. In his conditioned life, the living entity considers himself to be the lord of this material world. But in his liberated state, he enters into the spiritual kingdom and becomes an associate of the Supreme Lord. There he enjoys eternal bliss, eternal life, and full knowledge. One should be captivated by this information. He should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world and extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. For one who is too much attached to this material world, it is very difficult to cut that attachment. But if he takes to Krishna consciousness, there is a chance of gradually becoming detached. One has to associate himself with devotees, those who are in Krishna consciousness. One should search out a society dedicated to Krishna consciousness and learn how to discharge devotional service. In this way, he can cut off his attachment to the material world. One cannot become detached from the attraction of the material world simply by dressing himself in saffron cloth. He must become attached to devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, one should take it very seriously that devotional service, as described in the 12th chapter, is the only way to get out of this false representation of the real tree. In chapter 14, the contamination of all kinds of processes by material nature is described. Only devotional service is described as purely transcendental. The word Paramahamsa are very important here. Actually, every nook and corner of the property of the Supreme Lord is the property of the Supreme Lord, but the spiritual world is Paramam, full of 6 opulences. The Katha Upanishad 2.2.15 also confirms that in the spiritual world there is no need for sunshine, moonshine, or stars. Na tatra suryo bhati, na chandram tarakam. For the whole spiritual sky is illuminated by the internal potency of the Supreme Lord. That supreme abode can be achieved only by surrender and by no other means. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet mukam karoti vachalam pangulam gayate girim yakripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyam Ishwaram Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Indridumna Swaminiti Namine Namo Prabhupada Priyadasaya Jagannatha Yatra Nandamurtaye Bhakti Sukena Krishna Kirtanena Narasimhena Rakshataya Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai. So we had a little bit of a short purport, but this purport is another one of those, zoom out verses, because Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is a story within a story within a story within a story. It just keeps going in layers. So of course we have the original, means the first is Vyasadeva writing down what Sutta Goswami is talking to the sages of Naimisharanya about what he heard from Sukadeva Goswami talking to Parikshit Maharaj, about what he's speaking about Maitreya Rishi talking to Vidura, and then Vidura is talking what Vishnu is talking to Dhruva Maharaj, right? So it's just story and story and story. But finally now we're zooming out one layer, and so we can get back into the storyline of the Bhagavatam, which is actually really fantastic, right? The discussions of different great personalities. And this one, of course, we're back to Maitreya Muni talking to Vidura, and he's describing this whole pastime of Dhruva Maharaj to show the greatness of devotional service and the greatness of the processes in which one can achieve it, and dangers if you don't perform them properly. In the previous chapters, we heard the story of Daksha, right? Daksha and Sati, the whole sacrifice of Sati. And then now we're hearing about Dhruva Maharaj. And so this way, Maitreya is dispelling the doubts of Vidura Maharaj and teaching him the proper process of devotional service. So in this one, he's describing what the Lord did, how he returned to his supreme abode. And Prabhupada, in the purport to the Bhagavad Gita verse, is very beautifully describing how the supreme place, or Vaikuntha planets, are self-luminous, right? There's no need for sun, moon, stars, because they're self-luminous. That's not to say that in those Vaikuntha planets there may not be sun, there may not be moon, but it's not because it's needed, it's used as a facilitating the pastimes and enjoyment of the Lord. Right? In Vaikuntha, in Goloka Vrindavan, there's pastimes, different pastimes, night pastimes, day pastimes, twilight pastimes, right? We have the Ashtakalya Lila. Ashtakalya Lila means the full schedule of Krishna that's nicely described. And so what he does in the morning, what he does in twilight times, what he does later in the morning, what he does at noon. And obviously all these things are taken accordance to the day and night that belongs to the sun. So the sun is there to facilitate the Lord's pastimes. Right? There's a famous writer that says a moment is only sweet because it is fleeting. Right? An instance is only desirable because its temporary nature makes it desirable. If you were eating and you were able to eat forever, it would become boring. Because it's something going to end, then some new variety can come. So that way, Krishna, if he wants the rasa dance to extend throughout, a night of Brahma, it happens that way. But then it ends when he desires, and the next day comes, and different pastimes come into place. Make sense? So time, space is all irrelative in the spiritual world. It's all based on the desire of the Lord. If he wants a place to expand big enough to hold the entire universe, it will. If he wants the night to expand to the night of Brahma, it will. According to how long he wants to dance for, the night will be that long. According to how long he wants to play for, the day will be that long. It's all based on his desire. It's difficult for us to comprehend because we're bound by the rules and laws of time in this material world. But in the spiritual world, it's pastime. There's also description of Braj Dham being like a lotus. And in different parts of Braj, there's all the different seasons happening eternally. So if Krishna wants to play in spring, he will simply go to a forest in which spring is manifested, and he'll play there for some time. Then he wants to play in summer, he will go to summer, and like that he can move. Not only that, it says that the petals of the lotus flower can fold. Right? So if Krishna is going from one petal to another petal, from one place to another place, that petal will come closer to this petal, so Krishna has to walk less distance. Or if Krishna wants to travel further, he will make it more far away. If the traveling is the thing that Krishna wants to enjoy. Right? There's a pastime also where Radharani is going from one place in Braj to another place, but she wanted to take on with her all her associates. And so Yogamaya created a beautiful palace that was a chariot. And it's described that palace had rivers, had lakes, had mountains, and so we can't comprehend that, like what kind of road would you need for a chariot like that to drive on? But in the spiritual world, it's all irrelative. It's all about the desire of the Lord. And anything can be created or manifested for his desire, right? That's why it's also described that the Chintamani dust, right? The dust of the holy Dham can fulfill all one's desires connected in service. The Kalpavriksha trees can give you anything that's desired for your service. So if you need from the Kalpavriksha tree, today Krishna wants mango lassi, he will give you mangoes. Tomorrow he wants fruit salad, he will give you strawberries. Whatever you need, the Kalpavriksha tree will give. Because what is the driving force? The desire of the Lord. Right? And so Prabhupada goes so nicely into the next part, he goes straight into devotional service. Why? Because devotional service is what's going to get us there. Prabhupada says, if you want to become detached from this material world, you need to become attached to something higher. And what is that higher thing? Devotional service. Only by attaching yourself to devotional service and becoming completely dedicated to whatever you're performing in devotional service, then you'll be able to detach yourself from the material desires you have and the material identification of I and mine. Right? Because only if you dedicate your life for serving someone else, the Supreme Lord, you stop thinking about how I can be served. Right? As long as you're thinking that by doing this I will gain something, it's not about the other person. It's about what you're getting from it, right? It's the example is given of a friend, right? You keep that person around because he satisfies a certain desire you have. It may be the desire to talk about certain things. It might be the desire to play certain things. It might be the desire to, how would I say, share an interest. You both like a certain sport. You both like a certain movie. You both like a certain actor. You both like whatever it may be, right? And you like to reciprocate in that conversation, in that interaction. So it's about you. You're not thinking about how to please my friend. When I'm with him, I'm fulfilling this desire I have. And when that desire is not what you want right then, you don't want to be around that friend. You want to be around someone else who fulfills the desire you want. So it's all about you, right? It's like before, when the rich people, how would I say, the aristocrat society, they would have children. They would see their children 1 minute a day, 2 minutes a day. Oh, so cute, so nice. As soon as the baby started crying, take him away. As soon as the baby got dirty, take him away. The servants took care of everything. That's how we deal with our friends, and that's how we deal with our relationships. That when we want something, I want you near me. When I don't want, you don't exist. It's just kind of you come into appearance when I want something, and you should disappear when I don't want it. That's not the way how it could work, and that's not the way how relationships should work. So our desire to please Krishna should be unconditional. Not when I want it, how I want it, if I want it. That's not the way it works. We must give up this attachment to our desires, and only what Krishna wants is important. Then that becomes attachment to devotional service. Otherwise, it's relative, right? Then it's about me. It's no longer about Krishna. I want this, therefore I do this. I don't want this, therefore I don't do this. I like this, therefore I eat this. I don't like this, therefore I don't eat this. Right? Prabhupada talks about this in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right? Sakam Karma Yoga, Nishkam Karma Yoga. That if you're performing devotional service with attachment to the result, it's still mixed, Mishra Bhakti, then he moves on from there. So until we can get to the point, unalloyed devotional service, which means not only am I doing it only for the purpose of Krishna, I'm also doing whatever Krishna wants for the purpose of pleasing Krishna. Not only that I'm doing what I like to do for Krishna. No, I'm doing whatever Krishna wants me to do for Krishna. It no longer becomes about me. That's why the great devotees, they say, you can keep me here, I can go to the lowest planets of hell, it doesn't matter. It's not even that I'm attached to going back to Goloka Vrindavan. That's not even their focus anymore, because that's irrelevant, as long as Krishna is pleased. So wherever, however, if ever, I'm happy to serve you. That is pure devotional service. Sometimes we forget that aspect. And I want to serve the Lord as a gopa. I want to serve the Lord as a gopi. And if that, then maybe I'm not so interested, right? In Goloka Vrindavan, I don't want to go to Vaikuntha planets. You don't know what your relationship is. We're so impure. We're miles and miles and miles away from being able to understand what our relationship is with the Lord. We mimic someone else's interaction, and that way we have a small window into what we should be performing and how we should perform it. But to get to that place, we're very far away. And so we, on this Kanishta level, we discriminate between Vaikuntha planets, between the Lord, between Goloka Vrindavan, between Gokula Vrindavan, between the Gopas, between the Gopis, between the grass, between the cows, between the tree. We discriminate that this service is better than that service and that service is better. No. Krishna doesn't discriminate, because that jiva is eternally in that relationship with the Lord. And so that service is exactly what the Lord wants from that jiva. And there's nothing that the Lord would discriminate between that. Just like Lord Ram didn't discriminate between Hanuman and the ant. Right? The ant was serving the Lord in his capacity, Hanuman was serving the Lord in his capacity. Ram was happy, just as happy with both, because both are performing their best. Yeah, so Prabhupada, so wonderfully, he goes straight into devotional service. After describing the supreme place, to our eyes, there's no connection. Prabhupada is talking about, you're right, the supreme abode of mind is not illuminated by the sun, moon, and stars. Where does devotional service come into this translation? But Prabhupada puts the connection. Why? Because if we want to get there, we have to be attached to devotional service. Prabhupada uses that word, right? One should search out a society dedicated to Krishna consciousness and learn how to discharge devotional service. In this way, one can cut off his attachment to the material world. One can become detached from this attraction of the material world simply by one cannot become, right? Simply by dressing himself in saffron cloth. He must become attached to devotional service. He has to detach himself from the material world and become attached to devotional service. Otherwise, there's no hope. So it's such a wonderful Prabhupada puts. He gives us what the supreme world is, what Vaikuntha is, what Goloka Vrindavan is, and how to get there. Devotional service, right? And we have the 5 main systems of devotional service, right? Living in the holy dham, studying this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Jai Nrsimha Bhagavan Ki Jai, eating prasadam, living in the holy dham, studying Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, eating prasadam, associating with devotees, and I think chanting the holy name is, dham seva, serving the holy dham. Yeah, I think chanting the holy name is the last one. So those are the 5 ways in which we serve the Lord. And how do we serve the Lord? Through devotional service. And those are the 5 devotional services that we can perform. And there's 9 processes of devotional service. So there's so many different ways in which you can understand this. And so many different ways in which we have guidelines in which we can take step by step the process of devotional service until we get to pure devotional service, pure unalloyed devotional service. And so we must, Prabhupada says, one should become captivated by this information. It's so nice there. One should become enamored with this information and be like, yes, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. And I want to get there as fast as possible. Not, oh, that's cool, okay. But I have my Game Boy. Oh, but I have my toys. Oh, but I have my desire for my new car and my new house. One has to become captivated. Right? Rupa Goswami in another purport, when he's describing, he says one should become mad. One should become completely enamored. One should become so overwhelmed with the desire to go back to God that everything else becomes unimportant. And so how do we develop that desire? By purifying our desires, by purifying our attachments, by replacing lower desires with higher desires. Slowly, slowly we'll become so pure that will be our ultimate desire. That will become the thing we want, as much as we want all our material enjoyment today. And then we'll work so hard for it. Unless we really want it, it'll become, today I work a little bit, tomorrow I work a little bit, today I surrender a little bit, tomorrow I surrender a little bit. It's all circumstantial. Today I'm feeling in the mood, so today I'll play with Krishna, I'll reciprocate with Krishna, I'll come and talk to him a little bit. Tomorrow, not so much. Tomorrow I'll do something else. No, that's not captivation, that's not enamored. In Vijñapti Panchaka that we chant at the end of puja, right? I think Rupa Goswami wrote, and he says, Yuvatinam yata yuni yunam cha yuvato yata. Just as a young boy is attracted to a young girl, and a young girl is attracted to a young boy, let my mind be. Mano bhiramate tadvan mano me ramatam tvai. Bhiramate means it's completely occupied. When a boy is in love with a girl or a girl's in love with a boy, there's nothing else to think about. They wake up, they go to sleep, they eat, everything they're thinking about that. It completely engulfs their universe. And there's nothing else that becomes important. So he says, in that same way, let my mind be so captivated by you. So you have to get that level of captivation with the Lord, with devotional service, with going back to the Supreme World, that nothing else becomes important. Nothing else comes into your mind. I think I mentioned in my last class that it was very astonishing. One reporter was talking to Prabhupada. He said, what is the purpose of Krishna consciousness? And Prabhupada said, that exactly. To become Krishna conscious 24 hours a day. And the reporter said, well, that's very difficult to remember all the time, to remember Krishna. That's very difficult to be so Krishna conscious. And Prabhupada said, no. When you're at that level of Krishna consciousness, it's just like getting dressed. He asked the lady, it was a lady reporter, he says, do you forget to dress up nicely before going out of your house? No, you never forget, because it's your identity, because it's who you are. So Prabhupada said in the same way. Just as you wouldn't forget to get dressed before going out of your house, we will never forget to remember Krishna, because that's all that there is. So we have to get to that stage. And it'll take time, but step by step we'll get there. Yeah? So today is also the appearance day of Sri Abhiram Das Thakur. Sri Abhiram Das Thakur ki jai. So who here has heard of Abhiram Das Thakur? Jai, wonderful. So a few. For some of you it's first. Abhiram Das Thakur, or Sri Ram Thakur, or Ram Thakur, there's different names he's referred to as, was a very, very great devotee, and is one of the 12, he's one of the 12 gopas, or cowherd boys who incarnated at the time of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But the specific case of Abhiram Das Thakur is that he did not incarnate, he was already there. So the pastime goes that he wasn't born anywhere like that. What happened was when Nityananda Prabhu, before joining with Mahaprabhu in Nadia, he was doing parikram of whole India. And so when he got to Vrindavan, when he got to Govardhan, Nityananda Prabhu being Balaram and knowing everything, he went to a cave in Govardhan. He called out, Sridham, Sridham, come out. Right? And so what happened was that in the Krishna Dwapar Yuga time, when they were playing hide and seek, Sridham hid in a cave in Govardhan. And the yugas passed, everything passed, but Sridham, in the enjoyment of Krishna consciousness and devotional service, he didn't notice it. Time passed. Right? And so when Nityananda Prabhu came and called him, then he came out and he said, who are you and why are you calling my name? And Nityananda Prabhu said, you don't recognize me, I'm Balaram. We were playing hide and seek, now I caught you. And Abhiram Das Thakur said, you're not Balaram, you're so small. Balaram was the same size as me because in yuga cycles, right, size of human beings decreased. And so he said, if you're Balaram, Balaram was the only person who could catch me, right? I would run and Balaram would catch me when we would play tag. So I said, if you're Balaram, prove it. So Balaram said, well, Nityananda Prabhu said, okay, run. So Sridham started running as fast as he can, and Balaram, Nityananda Prabhu very quickly caught him. And so being convinced, Abhiram Das Thakur said, okay, so, what's the game now? What's the pastime? So Nityananda Prabhu told him that he has to start preaching this love of God and, help Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu spread the movement. And so by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, of course, he came back to normal size, the size of this age. But being a Gopa of the spiritual world, he was not on the same level with everyone at that time. So he was very much an avadu, very much beyond the laws of normal norms, right? Because he's in pure love of God. So there's many amazing, amazing pastimes. But I wasn't able to find, first of all, Prabhupada describing so many of those pastimes or directly from our ISKCON books. So I was a little bit reluctant to go into great detail of those pastimes that I don't know their sources. So I thought it would be more befitting to simply read from Srila Prabhupada's translation of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela 11:13, the verses about Abhiram Das Thakur. So it goes, the translation is, two devotees of Lord Chaitanya named Sri Ramadas and Gadadhar Das also lived with Sri Virabhadra Goshani. Virabhadra is the son of Nityananda Prabhu, right? This is the purport. Sri Ramadas, later known as Abhiram Thakur, was one of the 12 cowherd Gopalas, or cowherd boyfriends of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. The Gaura Gunadesha Dipika 126 states that Sri Ramadas was formerly Sridham. In the Bhakti Ratnakar, 4th wave, there is a description of Srila Abhiram Thakur. By the order of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Abhiram Thakur became a great acharya and preacher of the Chaitanya cult of devotional service. He was a very influential personality, and non-devotees were very much afraid of him. They were very much afraid of him because Abhiram Das Thakur was so powerful that simply by seeing him, one would fall in love with Krishna. Simply by seeing him, one would get prem. And there's also, Prabhupada goes into later, that he had a whip called Jai Mangala, right? The auspicious whip. And by touching someone with it, immediately they would get prem. So non-devotees were very scared of Abhiram Das Thakur because they knew as soon as they come into his presence, they'll become mad with Krishna Prem. And so that if they wanted to stay, they're impersonalists, they wouldn't go anywhere near him. So empowered by Sri Nityananda Prabhu, he was always in ecstasy and was extremely kind to all the fallen souls. It is said that if he offered obeisances to any stone other than a Shalagram Shila, it would immediately fracture. So Abhiram Das Thakur, being Sridham, being Gopa, right? He, being the brother of Radharani and being such a great elevated devotee, if he paid obeisances to a deity or a Shalagram where Krishna wasn't present, either through bad, not proper worship or not proper devotion of the devotees, if Krishna himself wasn't present in that deity would break because of the great power of Abhiram Das Thakur. Right? Abhiram Das Thakur, he was always willing to pay obeisances to all the deities, but if Krishna wasn't there themselves, who was there to accept the obeisances of Abhiram Das Thakur? And so by the Lord's arrangement, those deities would crack because, to show that I'm not there, right? Your pay obeisances to something where I am not. And so Abhiram Das Thakur would know. So he would very eager, always being a great devotee. Oh, wonderful deity of Krishna. But then if Krishna is not there, because Krishna is there only according to the devotion of the devotees. If Krishna is worshipped in his deity form with devotion, Krishna is there. if he's not worshipped with devotion and he's just a decoration for people to come and put money in the hundi, right? That's cheating. That's blasphemous, right? That's not the way in which we should be worshipping. And so Abhiram Das Thakur was like a test that if you're actually worshipping, then your deity would withstand his obeisances very far out. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, 10 miles southwest of Champadanga Railway, there is a narrow gali or gauge railway line from Howrah in Calcutta to Atma. A village in the Hooghly district is a small town named Kanakula Krishnanagar, where the temple in which Abhiram Das Thakur worshipped is situated. During the rainy season, when this area is inundated with water, people must go there by another line, which is called the Southeastern Railway. On this line, there is a station named Kolaghata, from which one has to go by a streamer, means a boat, to Ranikacha. 7.5 miles north of Ranikacha is Kanakula Krishnanagar, the place of Abhiram Das Thakur. The temple where Abhiram Thakur worshipped is situated in Krishnanagar, which is near the Kula bank of the Kana Dwarkeshwari river. Therefore, this place is celebrated as Kanakula Krishnanagar, because Kula, the river, and Kana is the name of the town. So Kanakula Krishnanagar. Outside the temple is a bakul tree. This place is known as Siddha Bakula Kunja. It is said that when Abhiram Thakur came there, he sat under this tree. In Kanakula Krishnanagar, there is a big fair held every year on the month of Chaitra, March, April, on the Krishna Saptami, the 7th day of the dark moon. Many hundreds of thousands of people gather for this festival. The temple where Abhiram Thakur worshipped has a very old history, and the deity and the temple is known as Gopinath. There are many Sevata families living near the temple. It is said that Abhiram Thakur had a whip, and that whoever he touched with it would immediately become an elevated devotee of Krishna. Among his many disciples, Sriman Srinivasacharya was the most famous and most dear, but it is doubtful that he was his initiated disciple, so he might have been a Diksha disciple. So Prabhupada ends his purport there. But this village of Kanakula Krishnanagar still exists, and the temple where Abhiram Das Thakur is there. Mataji, you've been?
No, I've been there when you need to do some passport things.
Yes. No, but that's a different Krishnanagar.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Kanakula Krishnanagar is closer to Katwa, on the other side.
Okay.
There's a different Krishnanagar.
Samadhi over here.
Near Katwa, that's in Katwa. But the Kanakula Krishnanagar is closer to Calcutta on that side. It's different Krishnanagar. Both are Krishnanagar. Yeah. So this deity of Gopinath is there, and it's a very beautiful, beautiful temple. The devotees there are absolutely amazing. And I thought it would be nice, since I wasn't able to find many other descriptions by Srila Prabhupada, I thought it would be nice to talk about my experience when we went there. So we went, quite a few times we went to this Kanakula Krishnanagar, and we would always spend time with Abhiram Das Thakur there in his Samadhi area, and he has his temple, his Gopinath deities. They're worshipped very simply. Like the platform in which they are on is just a stone, like even a bent stone. It's not like a marble altar or anything. They're very simply but very wonderfully bathed and taken care of every day. And the prasadam there, of course, is out of this world. Very traditional prasadam. Like you can't find more traditional Bengali prasadam than that place. So one time we were there sleeping right outside the temple, and this one devotee came and he started telling us that he's a disciple of Jagataka Maharaj, and to please come to his house. And so we wondered, okay, where's your house? And he said, oh, there's a village nearby, and that's where I live, so please come. So we packed up and we started walking with him. He said it's just a short distance, but it was like 35 kilometers. So but for him, he does it every day to come take darshan, so it wasn't a big deal. So we walked with him to his place, and it was a wonderful little village, like really old traditional village, small mud huts and houses. And it turns out that the entire village was disciples of Jagataka Maharaj. It was just an entire ISKCON village. It was really far out. I don't know, the population must have been in the hundreds, like 400, 500 devotees, families just living normal village life. They had their rice fields, they had all their cows, and everything is normal, but they're all ISKCON devotees. And they have, in their houses, they have an altar, they have Javadaka Maharaj picture, Prabhupada, and then Panchatattva or Radha Madhav poster. No deities, right? But they have Mangalarti in one house, and they'll all gather in that house for Mangalarti, and then Darshanarti in a different house. They'll play a lecture of Javadaka Maharaj over the speaker while everybody's doing their service. And the evening Sandhya Arti will be in someone's house. They'll take turns in whose house they have Sandhya Arti. It's really far out, like seeing Krishna consciousness in such a normal and lifestyle kind of way, not artificial. It's just they're going on with their farming, and they have full sadhana, And because the houses were so small, we couldn't all stay in one house. There was, I think, 15 of us that first time we went. And so they were staying two in different houses. Like, there was only enough space. And they would, empty their house, they would stay with relatives, and we were sleeping in their houses. It was really far out. And so one day they said, okay, we're going to do Harinam in the village. So we were very ecstatic. They said, we're going to do Harinam from around 9 a.m., 8:30 a.m. till around 2 p.m. So we're like, wow, that's long Harinam. So they said, we're going to have breakfast in this house. We go first to this house, we'll have breakfast, and then we'll go on our Harinam throughout the whole village. So we went to the first house, and there was such nice preparations. Actually, in the first house, they had Radha Vallabhis. I don't know if you've ever heard of Radha Vallabhis, but it's a very traditional Bengali dish. This dish is actually in connection with Abhiram Das Thakur. So Abhiram Das Thakur was a very close associate of Virabhadra. Virabhadra was the son of Nityananda Prabhu. So Virabhadra, when he started preaching, he made 3 deities, right? 3 deities, Radha Vallabha, Radha Kanta, and Sri Radha Gopinath, right? Those 3 deities. They're known as Chotobai, Mejobai, and Borobai, the younger brother, middle brother, and elder brother, because they're made from one pillar, from one stone. So this middle deity, Radha Vallabha, one day his pujari was serving the Lord every day and cooking amazing preparations, but he wanted to know what Vallabha wants to eat, what his deity wants to eat. Like Krishna has a menu, what he likes to eat, but what do you want to eat? He had this eagerness to find out not only what Krishna wants to eat, but what do you, in your form as Vallabha, wants to eat? And so, thinking this way and praying this way, one night, Radharani came in his dream and taught him how to make this recipe. So that's why the name of this recipe is Radha Vallabhi, because it's named after Radharani. And the cool thing is that in Bengal, any restaurant, any place you go, you can order Radha Vallabhis, and everybody knows. Some people say that it's named after because it's such a wonderful dish, that it was named after the divine couple Radha and Krishna, but many people don't know that it's after Radha Vallabha. So the first house we went to in this Harinam, we went and they gave us this Radha Vallabhis. It's this amazing preparation, right? So we gorged ourselves. We ate so much because we thought we're going to go in a Harinam for 3.5 hours. We have to be ready. So we get out of the house afterwards, get a mridanga, starts kirtan. We walk literally from here to there, and there was another house waiting for us. And immediately we entered into the next house. They wash our feet, they sit us down, and they give us another meal. And we ate another meal, a sandesh, there was rasgullas, there was juice, and this and that. We come out of that house, we walk a little bit more than that, and another house is waiting for us. They just wanted us to go from house to house to just be in their house. They just wanted to have devotees in their house. They were so eager. And in every house, they would wash our feet, sit us down, give us a garland, and give us prasadam. Every single house. We went to every house in the village. There was hundreds of houses. And at the end, we were just like taking a tiny tip off one of the sandesh just to honor because we couldn't say no. And the whole Harinam culminated in another person's house who made a huge Rajbhog feast. So it was just house, and at the end, we were supposed to eat like a 20-course meal of a very traditional Bengali meal, but we begged them, we said, Prabhu, please let us lay down for 2 hours, and we'll eat in 2 hours, because there's no way we're going to be able to eat anything right now. So they very happily agreed. We took bath in a pukur, we laid down, and then they reheated the prasadam ready for us at 5 p.m., because there was no way we would have been able to fit anything in us at 2 p.m. when they had it all ready. But it was such an amazing display of Vaishnava culture. They were so eager for devotee association. Of course, they have their whole village, but they were so eager to have devotee association that they organized this Harinam to make sure that we went to every single house and we reciprocated with everyone. And it was just we do like a 1-minute kirtan, sit down, talk with them for 2 minutes, get up, 1 minute kirtan another person's house. We would hear their names. They would ask us our names. We would talk for 1-2 minutes, go to another house. And every house had the same altar. Picture of Jatak Maharaj, picture of Srila Prabhupada, picture of either Nrsingadev, Radha Madhav, or Mahaprabhu, means Panchatattva. It was an amazing experience. And it really made us understand that Abhiram Das Thakur's village that he established, this Kanakula Krishna Nagar, still exists. And that's what Prabhupada says here, right? There are many Sevita families living near the temple. There were so many like that. The entire villages of devotees are just living a normal life, living their daily life, doing their farming, doing their rice cultivation, everything. I was sleeping in one person's house and he had a handloom, the old handlooms where you make cloth with the strings and the wooden things and everything. And he was showing us how he makes gamchas. It was just such a normal lifestyle, but they're all devotees. They're just living their normal life, full Krishna consciousness. It was really an amazing experience. And we went there many times after that. We kept coming back we called it Come to Home, Prabhuji, because when he saw us, he was Come to Home, Come to Home. He didn't speak much English. So we would call him Come to Home, Prabhuji, because that's what he would say again and again. But whenever we would go visit him, it was just amazing. It was really far out. Talking about this, another experience came to my mind that in Braj one time, I forgot where it was, what area, but we started walking after we woke up around 1 a.m. and we started walking because you want to walk as much as possible before the sun gets you. So we would wake up at 12:30 or 12 and walk until 9 in the morning before the sun gets you, and then you sleep, right? So we started walking, but of course it's pitch dark and you're walking through rice fields and grain fields. We got completely lost. When the sun came up, we had no idea where we were. We started asking, where this village, and they said, oh, it's, 2 krosh that way, 20 kilometers that way. We were way off. And so we just decided to go to the nearest village, and then we would figure it all out, later on. So we got there, I think, around 7 in the morning. We went to the temple in the village, like we would always do, and it was a Hanuman temple. And so we just laid down outside the Hanuman temple, and we thought, okay, we're going to take a few hour rest, and then we'll see what we do after that. We woke up, I don't know, probably around 11 a.m. to the smell of puris and halava and sabji. What happened was the villagers seeing us sleeping, they made a pandal outside the temple and they made a kitchen and they cooked a feast. Just because they saw us. There was, must have been like 20 or 30 villagers cooking a huge feast, and the entire village came to eat with us. There was puris, there was halava, there was sweet rice, there was malpuas. I don't know if you've had malpuas, but it's basically like pancakes in saffron sugar syrup. And what else was there? Amazing juices and tandai and ambras. They made a huge feast, and they must have spent so much of their Lakshmi, which for villagers isn't something very normal. And then when we got up, immediately they had cold water to wash our feet because they knew we were walking very far, so they washed our feet very nicely with cold water. They sat us down and we all ate together, the entire village, just because they saw us. This eagerness to serve devotees and to have their association was so present, even in complete strangers. And then they asked us, where are you going? What are you doing here? And they said, no, we're doing Brajmandal Parikram, but we got completely lost. They didn't care. It was just like, okay, stay here 3-4 days at least, they said. They didn't want us to leave. They made us stay. And then now, whenever we would go, we would add that village to our Parikram because it was by mistake, but now we have to go there. And this didn't happen only once, it happened a few times. So this Krishna conscious lifestyle that becomes so embedded and so natural for devotees, you can still see it in many places. You can still see it, that it's just a lifestyle. It's not about, I'm here in the temple in the morning, but the rest of my day is something else. It's just it's part of their life. They wake up, they go to the temple, they have darshanarti, they have everything as normal. And it's not something artificial. So we have to get to that stage of Krishna consciousness where it becomes us. It's not that something we do when we're in Samhachalam. It's not something we do when we are in the association of devotees. It's something you do whether people are watching or not. It's something you do whether you're supposed to do it or not. My father, I always use him as an example, but when we were in Ecuador, he would be downstairs doing Mangalarti alone if no one else woke up, or with just Pavani, if she managed to walk out of the room, it'd be my dad and Pavani, or he would just do it alone, and he would go through everything, Samsara Dava, he would do Nrsingadev Arti, he would do Tulsi Arti, And then he would sit down and chant his rounds. And then when we woke up, we would come down. But whether everyone else was up or not, it was just his life. It just wakes up and he does. It just happens. It's not something he needs to put on a show or something that he does artificially. We need to get to that stage of Krishna consciousness where it becomes our life. It's not something that we need to artificially do when we're in a certain situation, when we're in certain circumstances. Just as Prabhupada says, you have to become attached to devotional service. It has to become you, not something you do under circumstances when you're in association or when you're, someone's watching or not watching. Then we have a chance to become detached from this material world and go back to the supreme abode. Yeah? So we'll finish there if there's any questions. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki, Sri Abhiram Das Thakur ki, the devotees of Kanakula Krishnanagar ki, Jai. 2 questions.
Thank you very much. I really relish this prasadam pastimes, and prasadam is so important in our process, no? It's a best process. Just by relishing prasadam, we develop our Krishna consciousness, we progress in the Bhakti Yoga. So, my question is about Radha Vallabhi. What is exactly?
Okay.
Preparation.
So Radha Vallabhi is it's like a puri, but it's stuffed with a mixture of urad dal, coconut. Some people put coconut, but it's urad dal and koa. So it's a cooked down milk till it becomes very thick, and then you make it like a mixture, like a paste with urad dal also. And then with different spices, you stuff it inside, and you make a puri, but it's a stuffed puri, like we call it kachori, but it's a flat one, big like this. And then you deep fry that, and it becomes puffed very nice with the inside dal filling. And you eat it with a very, very rich gravy potato sabji. And the potatoes are almost whole potatoes, deep fried, and a very rich, creamy sabji. And you eat that together. That's Radha Vallabhi. But it's amazing. Very difficult to make because it takes a lot of work to prepare the filling, and then to make sure you fill it properly so it doesn't open, and like that. And the sabji also takes time. But it's an amazing sabji. One time I would love to make it, but in quantities it's difficult.
It's a coconut milk with...
the sabji?
No, the filling.
The filling is dal and koa, it's like burfi. You make the milk like burfi, but with no sugar. Yeah, it's koa. It's very, very common in cooking, especially in Bengal koa. We use it for everything. You cook it.
It's a sweet or it's a...
No, there's no sugar. It's just milk cooked down, so it's thick like burfi. And then you can fry it and put it in a sabji, or just dissolve it in the sabji at the end to give the creaminess. It's used in everything. You can buy it in any shop, koa, like by the kilo. I mean, gulab jamuns traditionally are made only from koa. That's what you use to make gulab jamun. It's 1/10 part maida, 1/10 part arut, means starch, and then koa, and then you mix that and you make gulab jamun. And in Indian sweets, so many things are made out of koa. So many things.
Thank you a lot.
Radha Vallabhis. I need to practice. I'll give it a few shots and then we can see. Yes. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, thank you for class. 2 questions actually. One relate to Ramdas Abhiram. This pastime where he made obeisances to the sons of Nityananda.
I wasn't able to find a direct quote from Chaitanya Charitamrita or like that, so I was a little hesitant to tell the story. But the main thing is that Nityananda Prabhu had a few 7 sons before Abir Chandra Prabhu and Sri Ganga Devi, which is his daughter and his son. And by the arrangement of the Lord, as soon as Abhiram Das Thakur would hear that Nityananda Prabhu had a child, he would immediately go and pay full dandavats. But the 7 children before Bir Chandra Prabhu, as soon as Abhiram Das Thakur would pay obeisances, they would pass away. And so what I was trying to look for was the reason behind it. Like we know in the pastime of Shantanu, right, in the pastime of Ganga Devi and Bhishma Dev, right? That the 7 children before Bhishma, they were the Vasus who were cursed that they have to be born in this material world, but they didn't need to live long after that, and they could immediately go back to their heavenly position. And so that's the reason why Ganga Devi threw them into the Ganga, right? Because as soon as they're born, but Bhishma Dev, being the one who stole the Surabhi cow, he was destined to live a super long life, right? So that was the reason. So what I was looking for is the reason why Nityananda Prabhu's children, those ones. Of course, the description is given that Vasudev or Sankarshan or the Lord himself wasn't present inside those other children of the Lord, and inside those other children of Nityananda Prabhu, but Bir Chandra Prabhu was the Lord himself. And actually there's a description Abhiram Das Thakur gives that if someone has not seen Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if they see Bir Chandra Prabhu, it's non-different. So Bir Chandra Prabhu was an amazing personality. And Bir Chandra Prabhu only being 1 year old or even less, when Abhiram Das Thakur came and paid obeisances to him, Bir Chandra Prabhu put his foot on Abhiram Das Thakur's head, kind of like, I'm here. So that's a nice pastime. Also Ganga Devi, the daughter of Vasudha Devi and Nityananda Prabhu, same pastime happened. But I was trying to look for the reason why that happened, and I couldn't find. I'm still going to keep looking and see. I'll hopefully send a message to your Guru Maharaj and see, he would be able to say. But I don't know. But it's a wonderful pastime nevertheless. Abhiram Das Thakur is a very far out. He had also ankle bells. It says he would dress like a gopa. He wouldn't dress like a sadhu, he would dress like a gopa, like he was in the spiritual world. There's also a pastime where he was doing a kirtan with, I think, Srinivasacharya, and he went into his gopa bhav so deeply that he started playing flute. And he didn't stop playing flute for 9 hours. The kirtan went on for 9 hours, and he just kept playing flute to the kirtan, and the kirtan kept going, and the flute kept going, and it just didn't stop. He went into that bhav of gopa bhav. There's so many amazing pastimes, but because I didn't find it in Chaitanya Charitamrita or described by Srila Prabhupada, I was a little hesitant to say them all. Does that make sense, bro?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for
Ramdas Abhiram was also in the original. I missed the part. I listened online, but I missed the part when I was ironing here. It was also when they went from Puri back to Bengal with Nityananda. Ramdas Abhiram was also there,
Yeah,
right? And they
he was
also
one.
missed the road as you did. For example. The other question is how we develop eagerness to become eager.
For devotional service?
Serving devotees, devotional service, living spiritual life.
It's like Javataka Maharaj so perfectly put it, if you can't cry for Krishna, then you should cry to cry for Krishna. If you can't cry to cry for Krishna, you should cry that you can't cry for Krishna. So it's kind of like...
Why I should cry for Krishna?
Exactly. We have to understand the importance of devotional service, and we have to understand that it's ideally something that we want to attain. It's something that I want to one day achieve. And so I am lacking the enthusiasm to start right now, like Prahlad Maharaj says, right? Start right now. You don't know when you're going to die, so start right now. But I lack that enthusiasm to understand that, so therefore I should desire the desire to want to start right now. And if I cannot do that, at least I can desire the desire to desire it. Right? So you basically, wherever you are, the moral of that is wherever you are in your Krishna consciousness, start now, whatever it may be. Right? Even if it's not full dedication, whatever, okay, I'm dedicated, I can chant 1 round a day. At least do that much. That's a step. It's not just because you can't do the full that you don't start right now. Just because you cannot have full enthusiasm, full dedication, doesn't mean you can start something today. Right? Doesn't matter how small, how insignificant, you can start something today. So start something today, and then that way, one by one, you'll get there. So if you're not eager to perform devotional service, become eager just to do even a small thing. Right? I'm not eager to, go and do all the service of the temple today, but I maybe can make myself eager enough to just go and wash one thing, or go and clean one room, and make myself eager to whatever small amount of service I have to do today. Do it eagerly, and then that will expand into other things. If you have a desire to perform a certain service, I like to make gardens for the Lord, I like to cook for the Lord, I like to clean the Lord's temple. Think about what makes that service desirable for you, and then make that quality something that you can share with others. Like, for example, cooking. I always give cooking examples. Cooking is something very wonderful because you get a result, right? You see the finished product. If it's good, it's good. If it's not good, you see the finished product. So sometimes with other things, it's a little bit more difficult. When you dress the deity, he looks so beautiful, you see the result. It's immediate gratification, so to speak. You wash the pot, sometimes it's a little more difficult, because what happens when you finish washing one pot? They take it and they get it dirty again, right? You wash one pot, immediately it gets dirty again. You wash it again, next day it's dirty again. So there's no long term, but you have to understand that then what are you achieving, right? What is it that you'll get out of washing the pots, right? I'm cleaning my heart, I'm listening to lectures, I'm engaging in devotional service. So by finding some result or something that attracts you, whether it's the result, whether it's the process, whether it's the inspiration to do it, whatever it is that attracts you to a certain activity, share that with everything else. Find a way to make everything else, just like we were talking before about finding good qualities in devotees. You find one good quality, you'll find two. You find two, you'll find four, right? So if you find one good quality in a person, then think about what else that person could have that is good. You see a good quality in him, there must be a good quality in that devotee also. Look for a good quality in that devotee. And then 2 will find 4, will find 8. So whatever you're going to start with today, you can start with that, and then from there it will build, if the desire is there. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, all makes all sense, but I think especially we come to the temple, we live with devotees, we get built up by a new philosophy, what makes sense, and then we have answers to these questions, what maybe we even didn't had before, but suddenly we got answers for, and then we developed some questions. But since we have the answers, we are kind of filled up, and we got first initiation, second initiation, and then we just become kind of in an autopilot. We going through this life on an autopilot, even in devotional service. And if there's something to change, we change the externals. But we not really going really internal. So we're not really developing the desire, because with the outward status, we think we done.
Yeah.
But we not coming to the level to think, okay, I have to go internally and clean up my closet there.
Yeah.
So how we can be eager to come over, to get out of this comfort zone, to give up our externals maybe, to or question our externals, to come in our internal bhajan.
Wonderful question, Prabhu. I think that everyone will have a slightly different process in which they find they're able to focus more on their autopilot, so to speak. Some people, it may be reading, right? They'll hear about some description, or they'll hear about some pastime, or they'll hear about some way of thinking or a further process that they're able to then focus on their daily things with more attention. Other people, it may be what's called, you have the Nitya Seva and you have the festivals, right? The different happenings. So then on those days, they'll be able to dedicate there more. And of course, in Krishna consciousness, it's just one festival after another, one circumstance after another. And so different people will find different things. But I would say that for myself, and something that I keep reminding myself is to captivate the mind while you're performing devotional service. And so even if on a subtle level you're not able to think, let's say, imagine when you're worshiping the Lord, your Manasa Puja may not be so perfect, and you're just thinking about the happening, what you're doing, at least you can put yourself into a meditative state, thinking about the Lord's pastime, or thinking, so you're at least conscious of the Lord, and you're thinking about the Lord, maybe not to the greatest extent as you're supposed to be doing during that activity. But then you're starting somewhere, and you're thinking about the Lord at least. So that when I'm cooking, I'm maybe not thinking about how the Lord will enjoy this preparation, or how, I'm going to offer this to the Lord, but I'm thinking about Mahaprabhu going to Vrindavan. I'm thinking about Srila Prabhupada because I'm hearing his memories. And like that, it's just, you're bombarding your mind so it can't think about anything else, and at least you're Krishna conscious. So it's kind of like a stepping stone. So I would say everybody will find their own stepping stone of how to get out of that autopilot, which is very dangerous. and start making it more vivid. And when you find something that brings your attention, then cultivate that, you know. But we have to look for that something that will give us that extra inspiration, will give us that extra thing that will make us more conscious. Like I remember when I was doing puja more often, we always talked about to get to that stage where you're no longer, of course you don't need the papers anymore, but you're no longer even kind of thinking what mantra comes next. It's just a fluid motion going through. And the whole purpose of getting to that stage was that then you can start offering more songs to the Lord, right? In between, while you're doing stuff, you can be singing, you know, Radha Krishna Pranamoy, you can be singing, you know, Jaya Radha Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavan. You can be thinking of the songs and thinking about the pastimes, thinking about the Lord's abode, and it becomes much more mental, the worship. And the process of the puja goes on without you having to think about it because you've done it so many times. But it's so dangerous that when you get to that platform of mechanically going through it, that you don't add anything more and you just go on to that. That's the dangerous part. So yeah, Prabhu, it's something that I think we're all struggling with. But we all each need to look for something that gives us the desire to fix that, to change that. And I think the beginning is just understanding that that's something that I need to fix, and then putting effort into it, you know. Before, what I find very helpful is also before performing puja, doing your Puranga Karma to the proper stage. And Puranga Karma will do everything from just doing achaman to listening or reading a purport that you can think about while performing the puja. You know, reading a pastime, hearing a pastime before you go to sleep so you can think about it the next day in the puja. You know, giving your mental some food for thought. So I would say, Prabhu, yeah, we need to look for something that would give us that extra inspiration. And for everyone, it may be something different. But reading and chanting is definitely the best. Hearing, chanting, reading, giving your mind something to want to do more, to do better, to think about while you're performing your daily activities. Does that help? Some little answer?
Yeah, no, it's food for thoughts, as you said. It's just sometimes I have the feeling, because you said we're bombarding ourselves with lectures also while we do service, and we hear so much lectures and we you know, kind of, but we're not changing anymore.
Yeah, you become complacent with that also.
Yeah, so you know, we come and like, this was a nice lecture, he entertained me quite well, I didn't fall asleep, I have breakfast, and then I go on with my life as before. You know, so that's sometimes unsatisfying in one sense.
Yeah, Radhanath Maharaj talks about it. He says that you have your two types of sadhana. You have your pre-9 a.m. sadhana and your post-9 a.m. sadhana. And he says that you can evaluate your progress by your post-9 a.m. sadhana, not what you do with 100 other devotees in Mangalarti. That's you know, very autopilot. You're going to be Krishna conscious, you should be Krishna conscious anyway. But he says you should be very introspective and see how the rest of your day go and how you're able to stay Krishna conscious and continue what you've been practicing before 9 a.m., after 9 a.m. And then in the next day, you know, think about how to improve that, how to change that. We only focus on what's direct devotional service and what's indirect devotional service. We sometimes just, you know, let it go and the day passes by without us thinking about the Lord. So he talks about that. Vaisheshika Prabhu also talks about that a lot. That it's kind of, we can evaluate where we are by what we do afterwards, what we do just during the day. And if we're introspective and we start thinking about that that's something that I want to change, then we will put some energy into it, and then we'll start, you know, making sure Krishna is involved in the rest of our day as well. Prabhupada, he was talking, I think, with Karandar Prabhu, with Shrutakirti Prabhu, and he was talking about Grihasta, when he was a Grihasta, and he said the way how he would finish his rounds is that he would make sure that he chanted 8 rounds before breakfast, so 4 rounds in the early morning, 4 rounds before breakfast, 4 rounds before lunch, and 4 rounds before dinner. And like that he could finish. Of course, he was giving an example of 16 rounds when we know Prabhupada would chant many more. But it was also a way how he would make sure his day was Krishna conscious. So I think, yeah, it's difficult, Prabhu. It's difficult, and I'm sorry I can't give you like a perfect answer, but yeah, it's more introspection and actually doing something about it. Otherwise, 30 years will go by chanting the holy name and we feel we didn't accomplish anything. very quickly. Yeah? Any other questions? No? Okay. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki.